Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror DVD movie review video as part of my current series where I'm taking a look at horror movies from my DVD collection, at random, ones that I haven't seen before that are somewhat related to summer. Um, Today we're going to jump back into aquatic horror. However, before we do that, I wanted to show off my new shirt that I got. My favorite, the best show of all time for my money. The original, that is, not the other crappy remakes and reboots of it, but the original with Rod Serling, The Twilight Zone. So got this in the mail today. Pretty excited to show it off and wear it here for this video. But yeah, anyway, that being said, let's just go ahead and get into it. So today's aquatic horror movie that we're going to take a look at is the remake to a 1970s aquatic aquatic horror movie, which is Piranha. So today we're going to take a look at Piranha from 2010, also known as Piranha 3D. So yeah, this is a movie I'd never seen before. I got it at some point in the last year or so. Um, but yeah, I thought I would add this to my series here. So let's just talk a little bit about Piranha from 2010. So Piranha or Piranha 3D. I'm going to call it Piranha because it's only Piranha on my DVD. It's not Piranha 3D like it is on some Blu-ray and other DVD copies. But Piranha is a 2010 American 3D horror comedy film that serves as a remake of the comedy horror film Piranha from 1978 and an entry in the Piranha film series. Directed by Alexandre Aja and written by Pete Goldfinger and Josh Stolberg. During spring break on Lake Victoria, a popular waterside resort, an underground tremor releases hundreds of prehistoric carniv- carnivorous piranhas into the lake. Local cop Julie Forrester must join forces with a band of unlikely strangers, though they are badly outnumbered, to destroy the ravenous creatures before everyone becomes fish food. So that's the premise. So basically, the film opens with fisherman Matt Boyd, who's fishing at Lake Victoria, Arizona, when a small earthquake hits, splitting the lake floor and causing a whirlpool. Boyd falls in and is eaten by a school of prehistoric piranhas that emerge from the chasm. As spring break begins, Jake Forrester reunites with his old crush Kelly and meets her arrogant boyfriend Todd Dupree. Jake meets Derek Jones, a sleazy pornographer, as well as Danny, one of his actresses. Derek convinces Jake to show him good spots on the lake for filming a pornographic movie. Jake's mother, Sheriff Julie Forrester, searches for the missing Matt Boyd with Deputy Fallon. They find his mutilated body and contemplate closing the lake. However, this decision is made difficult with thousands of partying college students on spring break, which is important for bringing revenue to the small town. The next morning, a lone cliff diver is attacked and devoured by the piranhas. So yeah, that's the setup and the premise for the 2010 remake Piranha. As far as the cast goes, we have Elizabeth Shue as Julie Forrester, Stephen R. McQueen as Jake Forrester, Adam Scott as Novak, Jerry O'Connell as Derek Jones, Jessica Zor as Kelly, Kelly Brook as Danny, Riley Steele as Crystal, Ving Rhames as Deputy Fallon, Dina Meyer as Paula, and Christopher Lloyd as Mr. Carl Goodman. So yeah, very interesting cast in this movie. So that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for Piranha from 2010, directed by Alexandria Aja. Um, this movie's pretty laughable and not in a good way. It really didn't do much for me on a from a horror standpoint. If I'm being honest with you, I would say it's more of a comedy horror than even a horror comedy. There's really no horror in it, other than I guess if you're in the situation. But they just don't really present it as any kind of horror movie, even a horror comedy. But let's just go ahead and get into it. I'll start with the things that I like about the movie, and then I'll get into some of my cons. Honestly, I don't have too much to say about the movie because there really just isn't that much to say about it. As somebody that enjoyed the original Piranha from 1978, I wasn't even aware that that was considered a horror comedy. To be honest with you, they certainly there's certainly much more of a serious tone in that movie, even though it is kind of cheesy. And I do remember it being kind of cheesy and over the top. Like maybe they shouldn't have taken it so seriously, but that Piranha movie worked pretty well for me, considering that it was the '70s and the effects weren't quite that great as far as the piranhas go. I would argue the effects here aren't also that great, not because it was old effects that are hard to make do, but because they used a lot of 3D effects and a lot of CGI. So anyway, those are my initial thoughts. But getting into the movie, the things that I like, there is a lot of blood and gore in this movie. I can say that. So if you're a gore hound that just wants to turn your brain off and just enjoy a spring break kind of movie that has a lot of gore, a lot of people being devoured by these piranhas, and a lot of blood in the water, you're really going to love this movie. You see a lot of devoured slash missing body parts, or body parts that are missing the meat on the bone, if you will, is one way to say it. It'll definitely quench your thirst for gory human flesh, if that's what you're looking for. The movie knows what it is. I will say that it's a movie and a premise not to take all that seriously, but just have fun with it. For the most part, it succeeds in that regard. It's not a movie that it ends up being as cheesy and over the top and comical as it is, but tries to be serious, like Jaws: The Revenge, for example, or one of those other Jaws movies. This movie knows it's a wink, wink at the camera. It's a wink, wink at the audience. We know we're having fun here. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel or make you think too much. So I give them kudos for that. It does have an interesting cast with some pretty big names in it, like Elizabeth Shue, Christopher Lloyd, and Ving Rhames. Those are three people I never thought I'd see in the same movie together. And then you also throw in Adam Scott and Jerry O'Connell. It's interesting. It's definitely an interesting blend of actors and actresses. And because of that, you get some decent acting here by Elizabeth Shue for sure. Although her character, just like the rest of the characters, don't have much to do. I'll get into that in my cons, but it does give the movie some gravitas with having those names in it. I enjoyed the beginning scene, I have to say. It's probably my favorite scene of the movie, if I'm being honest. Well, one of two scenes in the movie. The other one's probably kind of an obvious one that other people enjoy. But I enjoyed the beginning scene with Richard Dreyfuss making kind of a cameo, kind of reprising his role in a sense. It's not a full blown reprisal of Matt Hooper from Jaws, but obviously it's meant to be. In some ways it is, because he's dressed like Matt Hooper, he's fishing like Matt Hooper, he's got the glasses, he's even singing "Show Me the Way to Go Home," which if you've seen the original Jaws, you know the reference to that. So I really enjoyed that whole sequence. Even though, again, once the whirlpool starts, it's the effects get pretty cheesy. The CGI really takes hold, so that kind of took me out of it. But I like the wink wink part, and the fact that Richard Dreyfuss did this part of the movie, I think really adds some more gravitas to it. I thought it was a good way to start the film, not only to let the viewer kind of know what kind of movie this was going to be, but also a nice nod to that character of Matt Hooper and the actor, of course, Richard Dreyfuss. I thought that was really cool. So that's one of my big pros. And then my final pro, it's kind of a mix, but I'll give it a pro. I thought the look of the piranhas, well, being kind of different and interesting. I'm not going to say they're 100% practical or 100% realistic, but I do appreciate the fact that they don't look like those little like what you picture a piranha to be. These are very prehistoric, bigger, a little bit more detail on them. That being said, they're still kind of cheesy looking with the CGI and stuff, but I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him in terms of the look of the piranhas and having many of them in packs. So those are my pros for Piranha from 2010. Getting into my cons, I mean, the awful looking CGI slash 3D images that they use. I watched this movie in 2D, obviously, because it wasn't even an option to watch it in 3D. So I don't know. Somebody can comment down below if they've seen it in 3D, if that really makes the movie a lot better, if it makes those effects a lot better. But in 2D, I can tell you, it really took me out of the movie a lot with the over the top CGI and 3D images that they used. It kind of took me out of any sort of enjoyment or believability within the movie. Even some of the deaths I thought were a bit cartoonish for me, kind of like something from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where they combine animation and real life. There's one death in particular, and my other favorite scene of the movie, which of course, like many people's favorite scene, is basically the spring break massacre that takes place over about 10 minutes towards the end of the movie. But there's a woman that has like something, it's like a, it's not like a tie to a sail or something, but something snaps and it ends up cutting her in half. That looks like a complete cartoon, like something you'd see on Roger Rabbit or something. It really does, and it's just stuff like that really just didn't do it for me. And then, of course, you got to talk about the fact that a lot of the acting in this movie is not very good, minus the people that I mentioned there. Um, you know, Elizabeth Shue is always good. Adam Scott is good for what he is. Christopher Lloyd is good. I guess he plays the role pretty well, even though I'm surprised he was in this movie, to be honest with you. But at the same time, they kind of needed an over the top sort of scientist, doctor, if you will, doc. So they were fine, but like the younger actors and obviously some of the Spring Breakers and even Jerry O'Connell, I thought was pretty over the top and not great in this. And speaking of Jerry O'Connell, he leads the group of characters in this movie that are hard to get behind or really give a damn about because they're all so douchey in this movie, and he really leads the way in that. But all the spring breakers there's even a scene that Eli Roth is squirting water on girls, and I don't know, man. It's so silly and so over the top. These characters, I think the movie could have been better if you would have at least given us some characters to grab onto, but even Elizabeth Shue's character doesn't really do much in this movie. She has like three things that she does in the movie. She goes looking for the guy at the beginning. I think she tasers a piranha midway to the end of the movie, and then she climbs a rope towards the end of the movie along with her young children. I don't know. It's just none of the characters have anything to do here. It's not their faults, but yeah, there's nothing to glom onto in terms of characters here. Most of the movie does serve more as a Girls Gone Wild video from the 90s. If anybody remembers those late 90s videos, late night TV, they would have those Girls Gone Wild videos that you could get, which were basically spring break that somebody had a camera at. That's really what this movie is. And then they throw in some prehistoric piranhas into the mix for good measure, I guess. With a lot of gratuitous nudity galore, basically. That's another thing about this movie. This movie has got blood, it's got gore, and it's got nudity. That's really what it's got going for it. And if that's what you're looking for, hey, you do you. You know, if that's your idea of a good horror movie, it's not mine. I don't mind those things in a horror movie, but I like having a little story and some characters as well. And that's where this movie comes up a bit short for me. But yeah, it really is it is a spring break Girls Gone Wild from the 90s movie with there is gratuitous nudity. There's at least five or six different women that show their breasts. You get to see some buns on some of them. There's even a scene that goes on for about 2 minutes where two of these models, these spring breakers that Jerry O'Connell's character is shooting underwater, are basically buck naked and they're like dancing in the water together or something. I really don't know what that has to do with horror or with a piranha movie, but okay. And then my final con, which I basically just mentioned, is the fact that there's really no horror related to this movie. Like I said, it's not a horror comedy; it's a comedy horror. I would say they take a horror element like piranhas attacking people, but they make it a total comedy. That's what it is. There wasn't one moment in this movie that I was scared, and hell, I even saw even 47 meters down, which I reviewed about a week ago in this series. That had more thrills and more horror than this movie did, in my opinion. So it is what it is, though. Like I said, this is a movie you can throw on with some friends if you just want nudity, if you just want blood, you just want gore, and be able to turn your brain off for a summer spring break kind of movie. So for what it is, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, a pretty generous 6 out of 10 in my opinion. It doesn't. If I want to watch a good Piranha movie, though, I'm going to watch the original from 1978. This one's certainly not going to be in competition with that for me. So go ahead and comment down below if you guys have seen the remake from 2010, directed by Alexandre, who I do like as a director. I really liked his take on The Hills Have Eyes, the remake he did in 2005 or 6, and he's done some other good movies too. But 6 out of 10 for this one for me. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series. Please subscribe to my channel as well so you don't miss any of my great horror content that I pretty much have coming out the rest of this year. I haven't planned out. I hope you're enjoying this series. I hope you enjoyed this review. Like I said, go ahead and comment down below if you think I'm off base, if you actually enjoy this movie more from a horror standpoint, or whatever your thoughts are about it. But other than that, I hope everybody's having a good summer and stay scared. Bye.